You cannot heal what you refuse to face. You cannot face what you have spent years pretending is not there. So today, we face it. Welcome back to SSQJ Chronicles, a space where Black empowerment, faith, and life lessons intersect. I'm your girl, SSQJ, and we are in week 3 of The Beauty of You. Week 1 gave us our foundation, made in His image, God's image, distorted by the fall, restored by Jesus, the great restorer. Week 2 gave us our boldness. We named racism, colorism as racism's weapon, the crab bearer mentality, and every distortion subject to the blood of Jesus that has never lost its potency and will never will. Today we begin the deep work, and because this work is too important to rush past, too rich to skim over, we are giving it two, not one, 2 full episodes. Ooh, pray my script. Today, part 1, we are going to face the wounds. We are going to name what has been bleeding, what has been covered over, and what has been quietly draining us. We smiled and told everyone we were fine. Later this week, part 2, we will do the work of healing, the tools, the scriptures, the spiritual and practical pathways into actual wholeness. But you cannot get to path 2 without going to path 1. Did I say path? You cannot get through part 2 without going through part 1. And part 1 begins with honesty. So if you came today carrying something old, something heavy, something you have not been able to look at directly in a long time, you are exactly in the right place. This episode is for you. Let me start by naming something that many of us have been living in without fully realizing it. Survival mode. Survival mode is remarkable. It is the God-given capacity to keep going when everything in your circumstances says you should not be able to. And for the Black community specifically, survival mode has been a gift, a cultural inheritance, and a testament to the resilience God built into this people from generation to generation. But survival mode never meant to be a permanent address, because there is a profound difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving says I made it through. Thriving says I am fully alive in the life God gave me. Surviving gets you on the other side. Thriving lets you actually live on the other side. And God has always intended more than survivor for His people. For John 10:10, according to John 10:10, Jesus said, Jesus said He came that we might have life and have it abundantly. Some translations say much and more abundantly. Not barely, not just enough to get by, abundantly, overflowing, full. But here is the hard truth. You cannot thrive from a place of unaddressed wounds. You cannot perform thriving. You can look like you're thriving. But the real thing, the abundant life Jesus came to give, requires the kind of wholeness that only comes through honest, courageous, spirit-led healing. And healing begins with facing what is actually there. I want to introduce something that I believe is going to name an experience many of you have been living but could not describe. I call it dysfunctional functionality. Woo. Dysfunctional functionality is when you are broken on the inside but operating perfectly on the outside. You show up, you perform, you deliver, you take care of everybody around you. You meet your deadlines, you raise your children, you serve your ministry, you smile at the right times and you say the right things. And from the outside, everything looks completely fine. But on the inside, somebody to the inside, you are running on empty, managing wounds that have never been addressed, holding yourself together with metaphorical duct tape and sheer willpower. And every single day you wake up and do it all over again because that is what you know how to do. And here is the part that makes it so insidious. Dysfunctional functionality is praised in our families, in our churches, in our workplaces, in our culture. We celebrate the person who keeps going no matter what, the strong one, the dependable one, the one who never falls apart. And we rarely stop to ask, what is it costing them to hold it together? But God is not impressed by your performance of being fine. He's not moved by how well you are functioning. He is interested in your actual wholeness, and he is patient and persistent enough to wait while you finally stop performing and start being honest about where you really are. There is a difference between a past job and full healing. A past job covers the wound, manages it, works around it, and it will hold for a season. Only for a season. But a patch is not a healing. A patch is delayed honesty. Because eventually, always, what was never fully healed makes itself known. In your relationships, in your body, in your spirit, in your capacity to receive and give love. God is not offering you a patch. He is offering you wholeness. And wholeness requires letting him into the places you have been patching over. Before we can heal, we have to be willing to look at the wounds honestly. So let me name some of them. The wound of self-rejection, the deep practice habit of looking at yourself and finding something wrong, something to fix, hide, minimize, or apologize for. Self-rejection is so normalized in our culture that many people do not even recognize it as a wound. It just feels like honesty. But it is not honesty. It is agreement with a lie. And agreeing with a lie about yourself is one of the most spiritually costly things a person can do. The wound of shame. Shame says it is not just that you did something wrong. It is that you are something wrong. Shame about sin. Your hair. Shame about your skin. Shame, your hair is in its natural state. Your body, your features, the parts of your blackness that the world taught you to edit in certain rooms and around certain people. Shame does not just hurt, it isolates. It tells you that if people really saw all of you, they would leave. So you give them the edited version and you live behind it. Then we got the womb of performance. When you have been told explicitly or implicitly that your worth is conditioned, you learn to perform it. You become excellent, not because excellence brings you joy, but because excellence is the price of belonging. You make yourself palatable. I can't talk, y'all, but we're going to push through. Presentable, non-threatening. And something, somewhere in all that performing, you lose track of who you actually are underneath it. Then we got the wound of internalized inferiority. The quiet, devastating belief that people who look like you are somehow less intelligent, less capable, less deserving of beauty, success, love, and dignity. This wound does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it just shows up as the ceiling you place on your own dreams. The opportunities you do not apply for. The rules you decide in advance you. The rooms you decide in advance you have no business walking into. These wounds are real. They have names, and naming them is the very first act of healing. I want to talk about something I call internal bleeding. And I want you to feel the weight of this medical parallel, because it is exactly that serious. When someone is internally bleeding, they may look completely normal on the outside. No visible wound, no obvious sign that anything is wrong. But on the inside, something is hemorrhaging. And if it goes unaddressed long enough, it becomes life-threatening. Spiritual and emotional internal bleeding works the same way. When wounds go unnamed, unaddressed, and unhealed, when you stuff the grief, suppress the anger, perform over the pain, and never give yourself permission to actually feel and process what you have been through, you are internally bleeding. And it is costing you more than you realize. It shows up in your relationships as walls, as patterns, as the same argument you have had 100 times with different people. It shows up in your body, because the body keeps the score and the stress that has nowhere to go will find somewhere to live. It shows up in your faith as distance from God, as the inability to receive his love, as performance instead of intimacy. And here is what I need you to hear. God is not asking you to pretend you are not bleeding. Psalm 56:8 gives us one of the most tender images in Scripture. You have kept count of my tossings. Put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? He has counted every sleepless night. He has collected every tear. He has not missed one moment of your suffering. Not one. And Psalm 34:18 tells us he is close to the brokenhearted, not distant from him, not disappointed in them, close, present, right there in the middle of the wound with you. You do not have to keep bleeding alone. Name it. Bring it. He already knows it is there. Now, I want to address the other side of this, because internal bleeding does not always stay internal. External bleeding is when our unhealed wounds becomes the source of harm to the people around us. When we bleed on our friends, on our partners, on our children, on our colleagues, when the pain we have not processed comes out sideways, as rage, as withdrawal, as control, as criticism, as walls that keep people out even when they are trying to love us well. Unhealed people hurt people. Not always intentionally, not always consciously, but consistently. Because what is not addressed inside will always find a way out. And we need to be careful, genuinely careful, about bleeding on one another, about bringing the full, unprocessed weight of our wounds into our friendships, our romantic relationships, our family dynamics, and expecting other people to absorb what only God can truly heal. Galatians 6:2 calls us to hear one another's burden, calls us to bear one another's burdens. And community is meant to be a place of mutual support. But there is a difference between letting someone help carry your load and bleeding all over them. Let me say that one time. There is a difference between letting someone help carry your load and bleeding all over them. One builds relationship, the other erodes it. And on the other side of external bleeding is the opposite danger, shutting people out completely, entirely. Building walls so high in the name of self-protection that no genuine connection can get through. Closing off friendships. Keeping romantic relationships at arm's length. Deciding that isolation is safer than vulnerability. But isolation is not healing. Isolation is just internal bleeding with a locked door. And we were not made for locked doors. We were made for community, the kind where we bear and are born, B-O-R-N-E, where we give and receive, where we are known and still loved. I want to leave you with an image that I hope stays with you all week and through the rest of this series. Be a fountain, not a drain. A fountain gives life. It flows outward. It refreshes everyone who comes near it. People leave a fountain feeling better than when they arrive. A drain pulls everything in, sends it into the dark. People leave a drain feeling depleted, heavied, exhausted in a way they cannot always explain. And here is the truth. The difference between being a fountain and being a drain is not whether you have been wounded. Every fountain was built, shaped, and refined through a process. The difference is whether you have allowed God to address what is inside you, to heal the wounds, clear the blockages, and establish a source that does not run dry. You cannot be a fountain from an unhealed place. You can only pour out what you actually have. And if what you have is unprocessed pain, unaddressed wounds, and suppressed grief, that is what will flow out, no matter how much you want it to be something else. But a person who is pursuing healing, who is being honest about their wounds, bringing them to God, doing the work, that person becomes a fountain. Not perfectly, not overnight, but progressively, genuinely, and sustainably. That is what we are building toward. And we're building towards that together. Everything I just described, I have not just studied, I have lived it. I've been in dysfunctional functionality, looking fine on the outside, internally bleeding, patching things up that needed to be fully healed, showing up and delivering and performing, while something inside quietly is bleeding. Listen, I just described most of my childhood and adolescence. But God, hey, somebody say, but God. And I want you to know, the moment I stopped pretending and started facing what was actually there, that is when the real work began. Not comfortable work, not a quick work, but real work, honest work. And God met me in every single step of the way. And He still meeting me, and He will meet you too. Here is your reflection prompt for part 1 of week 3. Find a quiet moment with this, not while multitasking. A real, intentional moment of honesty. Where are you functioning but not fully healed? What have you been patching over that God is asking you to bring to Him for real healing? I want to say the questions one more time. Where are you functioning but not fully healed? What have you been patching over that God is asking you to bring to Him for real healing? Write it down. Pray over it. You do not have to answer this today. You do not have to have the answer today. You just have to be willing to ask the question honestly. And come back later this week for part 2. Don't forget about me. Because once you have named that wound, we are going to talk about it. Exactly how to heal it. I am so honored you stayed with me today, because I know I'm getting a little lengthy. This was not easy content. Facing wounds never is. But the fact that you are here, that you watched all the way through, tells me that something in you is ready. Ready to stop patching, ready to stop performing fine, ready to move from surviving to thriving. The life God designed just for you. Later this week, part 2, healing into wholeness, doing the work. We will discuss soul care, the 5 dimensions of health, protecting your gates, the difference between condemnation and conviction, emotional stewardship, and the sacred truth that God sometimes allows breaking to release the fragrance. So you don't want to miss it. Subscribe and like this video. Share it with someone who needs permission to stop bleeding in silence. And between now and our next video, just start being honest with yourself, with God. That is enough to begin. And this has been another episode of SSQJ Chronicles.